right, good evening. I now call the December 5th, 2023 regular meeting of the City Council to order. Please bow your head for an invocation. Loving and gracious God, you are indeed the giver of all good gifts. And we come together this day to seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength. Be with us in our deliberations and help us to be wise in the decisions we make for the good of all those who have placed their trust and confidence in our leadership. Give us insight to lead with integrity, that our decisions may reflect what is right and good. Keep us from short-sightedness and pettiness. Help us to make decisions that strive to be for the good of all and guard us from blind self-interest. Finally, dear Lord, grant us the humility to always seek your will in all that we do and say. All glory be to you, loving God, now and forever. Amen. Amen. Please rise for the pledge. All right, Mrs. Hoffman, if you can please take roll.
Ms. Nicely? Present. Mr. Cahill?
Present.
Ms. Kyle?
Here.
Mr. Skidmore?
Here.
Mr. Hermes?
Here.
Ms. Skidmore?
Here.
Ms. Reckers?
Here.
Ms. Jasper Lucas?
Here.
Ms. Wilson?
Thank you so much. You've received a copy of the minutes for the November 14th, 2023 special council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as presented. Ms. Reckers, Ms. Kyle, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. You've also received a copy for tonight's agenda. Are there any additions to be made at this time? Ms. Reckers?
I'd like to motion to table the small business incentive amendment since that's not been discussed prior to today.
That is totally a housekeeping issue to fix a clerical error. We can certainly table it. There's no hurry, but that's all that is. There was a typo in the ordinance.
Understood, but the typo that was in the discussion of the Small Business Task Force is not the same typo that is.
Okay, that's fine.
So we just want
I'm just going on
we just want a little bit more time.
Provided. Fine,
okay.
There's no urgency.
Groovy,
Just
thank you.
Call me on it.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion to remove legislation. Mr. Hermes, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried to remove. Let's see here. That is number 2. Okay. All right, any other additions or changes to the agenda? Okay. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented with the change? Ms. Reckers, Ms. Jasper Lucas, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right. Tonight, our first special presentation is we have a business spotlight today. We have Linda Young in the audience with Wirt Music. If you'd like to come to the podium, we do have a special presentation for you, but if you'd like to talk a little bit about Wirt Music first and tell us about your 50th anniversary. We had a proclamation done a couple of months ago, and you had quite the celebration as well. So thank you so much for being here with us. If you want to click the little green. There we go. Thank you.
It's red, by the way.
Red. All right, good to know.
Yeah. Well, I never imagined that 50 years ago that I would be standing here and looking at all these people. Some I know, some I don't. So thank you, Mayor Fetty and the council for having me here today. I do appreciate being recognized in any form or fashion. When I went to my dad, I was 20 years old, and I told him, I said, I didn't tell my dad, I asked him if he would be interested in funding a music store. I had worked at a competitor for 9 years in my senior year, and I really, really wanted to start one. I don't know whether I thought I could do it better. I don't know what my thought was at the time. But he actually listened to me, and he mortgaged the farm. You know those stories about someone mortgaging the farm? He did. So we started it in March of '73, and it has been a wonderful ride, really. You know, I was able to, my husband and I married in 1981. My husband, Bob Young, which some of you may know, he actually developed more of the school trade, because when he went in to talk to band directors, they could talk like guys together, you know, and it just kept growing and growing, and I have to thank him for that, and I have to thank my dad for that, for what he did, and the rest of my family. I have to thank my staff as well. Without my staff, I wouldn't have gotten this far, and that includes teachers. You know, we have lots of teachers and lessons in the store. We have pretty much anything you want we can get if it's not hanging on the wall. But it took time to develop those relationships with the manufacturers. And the best part of working in music, the best part of doing that is watching a young child, a 5th or 6th grader. And when we go out into schools now, that's part of what we do. We go out, we get them excited. We show them the instruments, play for them. Then we let them come up and try them. And when that happens, the child is coming up with the mindset, I can't do this, but all the other kids are doing it, so they'll try. The look on their faces is unbelievable. When they can get a sound, because we know how to make everybody get a sound. When they get a sound, it's like they light up. You can see their brains moving and thinking, I might be able to do this. So that's the best part. That really is the best part. And then watching them come in as 6th graders, some of them take lessons, some of them don't, but then they grow up and they go to college. Some of them major in music, some of them don't. The ones that major in music tend to come back and teach for us. So we get to see them again. We get to see them from the 6th grade all the way up through college. And from that point on, a lot of them have become music teachers. One particular person that was the band director at Connor Middle School is now teaching in a college out west. You know, so these kids, oh, I have to tell you real quick because you got to go on with your, I played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the trombone. And he was so impressed. He told his mom, he says, I want to do that. I want to do that. So that's the best part of the 50 years. It's just seeing all the kids and them coming back in and remembering, and kids of kids. You know, that's been the best part of the 50 years. So, but I thank everybody that had any part of that to make us still here after 50. And I hope we have another 50. I don't think I'll be here, but I hope we have another 50. But thank you. Oh.
Commemorate your 50 years in the city of Erlanger.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Good to see you. I'll take all this.
All right. I love to hear her story. All right, next item on the agenda, we're going to do a little switcheroo. We're going to bump the fire and EMS oaths of office. So we're going to do that first. So, Chief, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're going to do a swearing-in for 4 of our team members. We have 1 paramedic only. That'll be Adam Wagner. If you want to come up. He will do his swearing-in first, his family. So Adam comes to us, he lives here in Erlanger.
All right. After I say I, you'll say your name, okay? I
I, Adam Wagner,
do solemnly swear to do my duty as a firefighter paramedic for the city of Erlanger to the best of my ability. It's okay. I can say it all.
Okay.
You just say I do at the end. It's easier. It's super easy. To serve my commanding officers with respect and dignity, to serve the citizens of the city of Erlanger with compassion, courage, and integrity, and to uphold the laws and constitutions of the United States of America, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the city of Erlanger. So help me God. Congratulations.
Next 3, we have 3 firefighter EMTs. We got Joe Jones, lives in Newport. We got Tyler Ivesil, and from Florence, and Josh Hobbs lives over across the ocean over in Cincinnati. These 3 are firefighter EMTs. You're going to probably step back a little bit.
You can.
Joseph Jones.
Do solemnly swear to do my duty as a firefighter EMT for the city of Erlanger to the best of my ability. Serve my commanding officers with respect and dignity. Serve the citizens of the city of Erlanger with courage. To uphold the laws and constitutions of the United States of America, Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the city of Erlanger. Help me God.
So just real quick, really look forward to these 4 growing with our team. It's an exciting time for us because this puts us back to full capacity. So hopefully we'll be able to watch these guys grow and fill these officer positions one day, and it'll be an exciting time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right. Our final special presentation is our fiscal year 23 audit. With us is John Chamberlain, our auditor. Thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful to see you. Chief.
Thank you so much. because you all really want to hear this, I'm certain. Good evening. My name's John Chamberlain. I'm a CPA and partner at Chamberlain, Owen & Company, and we're a CPA firm in Erlanger, Kentucky, and we do appreciate the opportunity to do the audit work again this year for the city of Erlanger. I'd be remiss if I didn't start off by thanking Peter and Kara and your staff, Kara's staff there in the finance department, for taking good care of us when we're here at the audit. We're very annoying. We ask for a lot of things, and they take really good care of us and provide us and are very accommodating to us. There's a slide presentation. Peter's going to go through it with you. I'm going to try to do this as briefly as possible this evening. The next slide, Peter, shows what we call the auditor's opinion, and that's that your financial statements are fairly stated. It's what's called an unmodified opinion, meaning that we made no modifications or no modifications are required to be made to the opinion, and that your opinion is fairly stated. That's the highest opinion that we give. The next slide, as a part of every governmental audit, we review your internal controls, ensure that you have appropriate segregation of duties for your riskiest of assets, and I want to note that there are no noted material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls that we are required to report. As a part of every governmental audit, we also review compliance with items like the Kentucky Revised Statutes, your SERS compliance, any grants, bond agreements, anything like that, and we had no issues of non-compliance to report. You did expend $1.2 million of federal funds as part of the American Rescue Plan Act, or the ARPA funds, and we were able to do a compliance examination engagement this year for that, and so that was a little different. You spent those funds on employee payroll, as you were allowed to do, and we had no issues of non-compliance with the federal programs tested under federal guidance. The next slide, we did provide a governance letter to council. That's a letter that's required by our profession. It allows us to communicate directly to the city council and let you know if we had any issues or if there was anything that we would want to disclose. In that letter, we did mention that we did one unplanned audit adjustment, which makes Kara really mad, but we had for your entire year of accounting, we made one adjustment. That's a pretty good accounting right there. We do have one planned adjustment that we do every year where we recognize the change in your pension and OPEB liabilities, and so we set a $930,000, almost $931,000 reduction of your pension liability and an $380,000 increase in your OPEB liability, a net about $550,000 net reduction in those OPEB and pension liabilities this year. And I want to brag a little bit. There's, I think, 3 cities in northern Kentucky where the finance director produces their financial statements. Normally, most cities, the auditor produces the financial statements, especially around here. And there are 3 cities, Crestview Hills, Florence, and Erlanger. And so Kara is one of the 3 finance directors in northern Kentucky that produce their own financial statements. They're produced in what's called an annual comprehensive financial report format that gets submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association each year, and in 2022 they won an award, an Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Several years in a row they've won that award, and 2023 the ACFR for 2023 should win that award again this year, so we're expecting that. So I do want to brag on her a little bit and let you know what you have as far as a finance director in the city of Erlanger. Also, we have no management comments to provide, and that's just something for you, for management. I applaud. We've had management comments in the past. You've addressed them, and so we appreciate that, and so we had no additional management comments to provide this year. The next slide just let's look at the assets. So this is assets and unrestricted cash comparison for your governmental funds. The city's cash, that's the green bar, it increased significantly in 2023, about $2.58 million more than the prior year, while investments increased about $45,000 due to a slightly rebounding market conditions in June of 23. Investments have remained stable, as you can see, since about 2020. 2017. We have a rule of thumb that the Governmental Finance Officers Association uses, and that's to have a minimum of 3 months of operating cash on hand. So of your operating expenses of about $22 million, a 3-month worth of cash would be about $5.5 million. So that's the minimum that cash you'd want to have on hand. You have about $19.4 million in cash and $4.3 million in investments, which is a 13-month cash investments on hand. You could run the city for 13 months and not receive any revenue whatsoever. Next slide. The next slide, this is just a debt comparison across the city. The yellow is the current portion of liabilities, slightly less than last year because you did have some ARPA funds that were deferred last year, about $1.2 million that were deferred last year that aren't deferred this year, that we expended this year. So that's why the current liabilities are higher in the last 2 years, but also why they decreased since 2022. The orange, which you really can't even see, is the current portion of long-term debt, and that's only the current portion of your employees' compensated absence payable, right at $148,000. The red, your bonds were paid off this year. You made your last bond payment, so the city has no other debt, no bond debt, and the $551,000 reported there is compensated, the long-term portion of compensated absences or leave and vacation due to your employees. The pink bars are your net pension and OPEB liabilities, and you can see they've decreased the last 3 years, really due to improved market conditions. These are measured at June 30th of 2022. So as the market has improved, the net pension liability has decreased each of the last couple of years. So that number, about $33.4 million. So it's nothing to sneeze at, to scoff at, but it's not a debt, where you have to make a standard payment on like you do normal debt. They claw it back through raised pension expenditures. So one thing the council does need to be concerned about, obviously, are pension costs over the next few years to try to reduce those, to reduce that pension and OPEB liability. The next slide is the balance sheet. So this is the current portion of the balance sheet, and it's divided between the general fund, the capital assets fund, and then a summary fund for all of your non-major funds. We call them your minor funds. So you see there, I'm going to go down the far right column for total governmental funds. There's your cash of $19.38 million, investments of $4.3 million, right at $3.7 million in receivables, $200,000 in prepaids, so total assets right at $27.7 million. Liabilities, all being current liabilities, of $3.3 million. Again, that's all your current liabilities. That doesn't include the pension liability. So assets minus liabilities are your fund balance. And if you look up it's the next to the last line where it says total fund balance of $24.383 million. That's assets minus liabilities. That's the fund balance for the city. I do want to point out what I've got boxed there. You've got emergency reserves, and these are your committed and unreserved funds, your emergency reserves, your resilience fund, which is new, funds set aside for capital assets, and then unassigned funds. And you see those numbers total to the side there, total to about $23.6 million. So the city has $23.6 million of either unreserved or committed funds, committed for capital assets, committed for emergency reserves, that kind of thing. So that's when I say you have a strong cash position, that's really where you see that. There are no restrictions on that cash. The next slide shows revenues versus expenditures for the city. $25.8 million in revenue, $22.1 million in expenditures, right at a $3.7 million gain compared to a $2.6 million gain in the prior year. The revenues increased right at 5.6%. Payroll tax, interest income, charges for services make up the majority of that $1.4 million increase over the prior year. Expenditures increased by about 1.42%. 2%, so very flat on expenditures. The city has a self-imposed fund balance target of about 30% of expenditures, so they want 30% of their operating expenditures they want to have a fund balance that equals 30% of their operating expenditures. That would require the fund balance to be approximately $6.6 million. As I said just a moment ago, the city's fund balance is $24.4 million. That's 110% of your operating expenditures. So instead of a 30%, which is what you've self-imposed, you have 110%. Next slide is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This is the income statement for the city, and just shows the total revenues there of $25.8 million. That's too small. $25.8 million. Total expenditures of $22.1 million, and then revenues minus expenditures of $3.7 million. The next slide is your revenues by source for all your governmental funds. Again, your revenues at $25.8 million. Like I said earlier, a 5.6% increase. You see licenses and permits up 7.2%, about a $1.1 million increase over the prior year, and that's with no increase in payroll tax rates or license fees. That's a natural increase. Property taxes up 1.8%, about $110,000 over the prior year, and that's with no increase in property taxes. Intergovernmental revenue decreased about 30%, or right at $1.3 million. That's simply because you recognized $2.5 million of ARPA funds last year and only $1.285 of ARPA funds this year. So that's just of those ARPA funds that you recognized in the current year, different from last year. Charges for services increased about 15%, or $140,000. And this is the best performer. If you'll check out the interest rate, increased about 843% from the prior year. You had about $81,000 in interest last year and about $765,000 in interest this year. And trust me, I checked this number because that looked suspicious. Large amounts of cash on hand and significantly higher interest rates. You were the prior year you were doing interest rates of somewhere around 0.5%, 0.5%. You're around 4.2% this year, and if you just do simple math, you'll get that number. So. Total expenditures right at, sorry, Peter, next slide. Total expenditures of $22.1 million, a 1.42% increase, about $310,000 more in cash, more expenditures than the prior year. Police expenditures increased by about 12.3%, or $752,000. Fire and EMS about 12.9%, or $622,000. Your capital outlay decreased about 23.6%. Right at $1.2 million, and public works increase of about 13%, or $339,000. And general government decreased about 7.2%, or $187,000. And the next slide might be just a little hard to see, and I apologize for that. There's just a lot of information on it. And that is, this is your budget to actual for your general fund. And we like to show this fund because it shows your original budget, any amendments to that budget, and the final budget. And when you amended your final budget, you went right down with your actual expenditures, and you amended your final budget to your actual expenditures. And so that's why there's no variance in that third column or that fifth column over there, except in one account where we made a journal entry, where we made an adjusting journal entry. So we ruined it for you. But other than that, you see that you amended your budget to your actuals for the current year. So are there any questions on the financial statement, anything that I can answer? Let me know if you're ready for your quiz. I'll start. Tyson.
Yes, Mr. Chamberlain, thank you. This is the first time I can remember there being no management comments. Is that?
Yeah, sadly, I don't do it very often.
It's good, yeah. But I don't think that's ever happened as long as I've been paying attention.
Yeah, I can't tell you for here particularly. Every once in a while, there's usually something.
Okay,
and,
yeah.
Of course, I try to find something, so.
Thank you. It's all good news. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for John? Okay. I wanted to just pass out one other thing, because when we were going through the audit, I always like to see where we came from. So I was pulling out my old audit from last year, and I had the balance sheet from last year's audit printed off. I just wanted to pay attention to a couple of numbers. This, if you change, go to page 7, that's the balance sheet for the current, most recent, in your packet. Your presentation. I just like to see where we have been and where we are today. So if we're taking a look at the far right column where it says total governmental funds, and we go down to the total fund balances, if you're paying attention to total fund balance, we're seeing that last year's audit was at 20.6 million, and our new total fund balance is 24.3 million. So I want to show that we are in a very strong financial position. Okay, John is seeing that, we are seeing that with the numbers, we're seeing that with the economic development, the increase in our business community, the increase in our residential. This is strong. And I just want you all to be proud of the work that we're doing here, because council is a tremendous part of this, all of our staff, everybody that works hard every single day to make this the greatest place to live, work, and play. This shows in numbers the impact that we're all having. So I want you to be proud. And I want you to give a giant round of applause for our finance director, Kara Kramer. You do a tremendous job, and I don't think there's anybody on the planet that cares about numbers more than you do, and cares about finding the dollars in the craziest of places, and you do such an excellent job, and you get so excited about it too. You absolutely have a passion for this, and I am so appreciative that you share your passion with us, so thank you.
Kara, can I make your announcement? So Kara was elected president of the Northern Kentucky Government Finance Officers Association. So congratulations.
That's incredible. Congratulations. All right. Anything else, John? Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right. Father, can you look at that sign-in sheet? Is there anything on there? Not a name. Not a name? Brilliant, thank you. All right, so comments other than council members, there's no public comment. Mayor's report. I just want to express how, I don't know, how glorious the Christmas decorations are all over the city of Erlanger. And you see, we started off with I think $5,000 of Christmas decorations, and then it's just that line hasn't grown, but our accumulation of Christmas decorations has. And the care that Public Works puts into it all, it's so beautiful. There has not been a day that goes by that I have not received a comment from somebody. I don't know if you all noticed going up and down Commonwealth Avenue, the other special little addition that we've added. So we took down the honor banners, and we were going to put up our normal Christmas banners or holiday banners, and Tyson had a glorious idea of reaching out to Brett Harper, Charlie Harper's son, who is in charge of his beautiful collection. And we were able to get permission from Brett Harper to use Charlie's work and we created banners. I mean, he was so excited that he immediately starts sending us high-res images of his father's work. So it's just another, I don't know, just a beautiful addition to our Christmas. So thank you. I got a text message. I'll read this from Caroline Wetzler from VOX. She said, "Can I just say how much I love the holiday decorations in Erlanger this year? I almost hit someone looking at each of the utility poles with the birds. I love it. Great job." So my response to her was, "Put your eyes back on the road." So. But it's nice to hear how it's warming everybody's heart. So thank you to Public Works for all of their hard work and dedication, and they just go the extra mile all the time. And we can see it and feel it, so thank you. All right, City Administrator's Report. Mr. Glenn.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, Council. First thing to discuss is we have a Board of Adjustments meeting coming up on December the 18th, 7 p.m. here at Council Chambers. What we have is an individual seeking a conditional use permit for an event center where a church is currently located on 1961 Bullock Pin Road. So that will be brought before the Board of Adjustments. Is this loud? It seems loud. Meeting here on the 18th, so I invite everybody to attend that. Budget projections. I know several council members have asked about that, and we're nearing completion on that here from the staff, and final review is happening, and we'll be ready to present that at the caucus meeting in January. And the last thing I have is tonight we will be proposing, Jack, as part of the legislation, will be proposing a budget amendment. Just a little bit of the background on that I provided a little bit of an update in my weekly updates, and then you have a memo from Kara. But what has transpired is we had an officer that was involved in an accident out on 275, I believe. Luckily, no serious injuries, but can't speak so well of the vehicle, which has now been totaled. So they have secured a vehicle that the dealership is willing to hold, which is very unusual, especially in these times where it's so difficult to find a vehicle. So we're proposing a budget amendment to purchase that new vehicle, and then the insurance will be totaling the vehicle, and that money will be put back in the general account. So that is what Jack is proposing tonight. We're trying to get the first reading done tonight, second reading 1st of January, so that way the officers can get their vehicle purchased. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Gatlin, City Attorney's Report.
Yes, we have a lot of housekeeping issues tonight, but one thing I do want to bring to everyone's attention is item 7, which is a resolution for Circle Port Industrial Revenue Bonds. Mr. Dick Spohr and Tom Banta are here on behalf of Corporax. This is really just stage 1 of about 3 or 4 pieces of legislation that will come in front of council. This is literally just the intent, I'm going to say the intent to issue the bonds, even though that's really not, that's a separate legislation. This is kind of a housekeeping issue for the IRS. I don't know if either one of you want to just briefly speak to kind of better explain why you need this. Because I know you all have started work, and I think you want to roll the work that you've done into the bonds that'll be issued in either February or March, is my understanding.
Yes, sir. My name is Dick Spohr with the law firm of Keating, Youth and Think Camp. There you are. Okay. As Jack said, this is a preliminary resolution. Without boring you to tears, this is required by the IRS. If anytime you want to issue bonds that will be tax exempt, you have to have a resolution of this type in order to protect the expenditures. For example, if you don't have a resolution like this and you go ahead and build the project, you cannot issue the bonds. So this is a prerequisite. It doesn't commit the city to issue the bonds. It just indicates the intent that once all the documents are satisfactory to everyone, the bonds will be issued at that point.
And if council has any questions, we can address it at 7, or at item 7, but since Corporex is here, I think it'd be appropriate if there's any questions at this time. Anybody? Nobody? All right. So my understanding is, assuming this passes tonight, we're kind of working through, just to let council know, we're working through the final stages of the development agreement, which we really, frankly, were on kind of the final stages about a year ago. This project was then put on hold for about a year. And I think the plan would be probably back February, March, that you all will be back in front of council looking for more of a formal blessing. Is that fair?
Jack, it might be a little sooner than that.
Okay.
To review, there are really 3 steps. This is the first, if it's your pleasure to adopt tonight. The second will be to finish the development agreement that we had worked on last year. That is essentially the same except compressed. It's a smaller project. That would be the next item. And then the third item would be the so-called bond inducement. That's for you would agree to preliminarily to issue the bonds, and then we would go to Frankfurt and have a bond hearing. The way that works, they have to have a hearing down there, and if they approve the bonds, then it comes back to you. So I would think we may have legislation as early as January for the development agreement, possibly, and then and the inducement, and then the bonds would be issued in March. The last step would be in March. Between the second and third steps is when we have the hearing in Frankfurt.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's all I have, Mayor, until we get to legislation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, report on capital projects, Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor. A few things. Public Works has been working with Spalding Construction still on the Public Works facility. They're pouring retaining wall on the backside of our maintenance bay currently, which is Russell McClure Road there. They'll also be pouring footers for the other facilities moving forward, weather permitting, of course. Jefferson Contracting is working on Circlewood. They've got 1 lane completely finished. They finished Valleywood, I think, Monday, that intersection. And that should be wrapping up here in the next few weeks also. Cahill Commons Phase 2, Beaumont's working on the seat wall that and retaining wall that separates the basketball court from the playground area. That's going in currently, and they're working through with the weather also. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the Public Works Department every year in November does a playground inspection. We currently have 3 gentlemen on our staff that are playground certified inspectors. They go through everything from head entrapments on the equipment, looking for anything that's broke, tighten up bolts and that. But those gentlemen go through a very difficult test every 3 years to keep their certification. I mean, they take it pretty serious. You can't take phones in, pencils, no hats, stuff like that. They're checking as you go in. But those gentlemen do a really good job. So that report should be finished up here this month. And if you'd like to see it, be more than happy to share it with you. But they do an extremely good job of going through our playground equipment and make sure everything is safe. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure our insurance company appreciates that. Yes. All right. Department heads. Any other department heads want to report? Chief?
I just have a couple quick things. I know the semi-issue in the Cherry Hill subdivision has kind of been brought up again recently. The last incident, well, we had an incident last week. Luckily, the semi didn't do any damage. We were able to find the semi. We arrested the driver for some warrants that he had. So, but that was the only issue that I'm aware of in Erlanger for the last several months. The issue that everybody was talking about The last couple weeks was the one that happened in Boone County, and I think we've kind of made some headway with that. Boone County's put up some signs, and hopefully the construction on Donaldson doesn't hurt us too much, because I think Google Maps is routing semi-traffic through the neighborhoods to beat all the traffic. So it's like we take a step forward and 3 steps back sometimes. But the only other thing is I wanted to report was Officer Simler wants everyone to know that he was not at fault in his collision. He was sitting in his car working a traffic accident when he was rear-ended. So that's how the vehicle was totaled. But we are lucky. He had a couple scrapes and bruises, but he's doing well. So if there's no other questions about the replacement vehicle, that's all I have.
All right. Any other department heads? No. Okay. Reports from task forces. Ms. Jasper Lucas?
I was also going to give a little bit of an update on Cherry Hill. The task force has actually not met for a little less than a year, mostly because we weren't seeing as many incidents. We were seeing a reduction. But I did want to give an update on our meeting with Boone County, which was probably about 3 weeks ago. And Chief Rader did mention several of the things that Boone County has agreed to do. But I want to thank Chief Rader for putting together a lot of the data that we were able to share at that meeting, which basically shows that, like you said, Erlanger doesn't really have a significant issue as far as the trucks going in to the entrances to Cherry Hill that sit in Erlanger. We've had a significant, what we've done has worked. So basically what we shared at the meeting was, with Boone County, was, here's some of the things we've done that have worked. They are also doing a lot of the same things on their end. But one thing I want to mention that I don't know that a lot of residents are aware of is you have a mix, obviously you have a mix of Erlanger and Florence, Erlanger and unincorporated Boone County, and then some of the roads involved are state roads. So 717 and 236, which is Donaldson, need additional signage, and that is going to be the responsibility of the state Department of Transportation. So we are, along with Boone County, lobbying basically the state to help with that additional signage. But Boone County is doing some things as far as putting up additional delineators on Queens Court and clearing some of the foliage that will hopefully make signage more visible. They have put additional signage up, but they can't put it in certain places because those roads are the state's responsibility. So I know a lot of folks were a little bit frustrated with the additional signage that they put up because they didn't think it was in the appropriate places, but that's because that's not a Boone County's jurisdiction, basically. So I was going to say something else. Oh, our continued focus on both parties is preventing the trucks from ever coming into the neighborhood to begin with. So like Chief Rader said, we are reacting when there's a call, but we'd really prefer that they not ever come into the neighborhood because that's when the damage happens. So I just wanted to give an update on that to council, and let me know if you all have any questions about any of that. But I appreciate Peter and Kevin attending that meeting as well, because I think hopefully we shared some ideas, and I feel like we're all on the same page as far as how we want to move forward. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Any other task forces? Okay. Ms. Hoffman, are there any bids tonight?
I do have 2 to mention. J.J. Kane is going to have an online auction beginning December 8th. It'll end on December 19th, and the city has surplus property that will be auctioned. There'll be the Sony camera with supplies, and then 3 of our vehicles, which is the F-350 utility truck, 2 Camrys, and a Tahoe. And then also, there will be a bid opening on December 18th for the replacement of the Fire EMS Department's hydraulic extrication tools. And that is all.
Thank you. All right. Does anybody have any unfinished business today? Okay, how about new business? Mr. Hermes?
Mayor, I just wanted to take a few moments to discuss a letter that we received. It was addressed to the mayor and city council, so all of city council was copied on it. And I think it's a phenomenal way to get a message to us, to the mayor and council. I mean, Sherry does a great job of making sure that we all see it if it says it's to us. However, there was a couple things about this. I mean, the big thing is that there's no return address, and we don't know who this is from. So I guess what I wanted to say first is that we would really like to know who's requesting some of this stuff. Actually, before I get into that, let me go ahead and read this, most of this letter. Actually, I'll go ahead and read the whole thing. Mayor and City Council, I so appreciate the beautification efforts, but would rather see the roads fixed. My back gets jarred when driving on Hallam, Concord, Holbert, Lambda, you know the ones, and repairs are long overdue. The extensive work on Rainbow Terrace Park is nice, but would have fixed many streets with these dollars spent. Street sign replacement, also nice, but my tax dollars better spent on needed repairs. Public Works does a great job on small repairs, but more than patching is needed. Please address this now. Winter will make it worse. Thank you, especially for the leaf pickup. So I know sometimes people hesitate to sign these type of things, at least I've heard, that they are afraid of retaliation from the city. And I guess the first thing I wanted to say is just to make it clear that what I'd like to be able to say, I'm pretty sure I'm accurate in saying this, that doesn't exist. There is, I can't think of anybody in staff or anybody on council or the mayor or administration that would retaliate in any way for someone expressing their opinions, no matter how much we might like it or not like it or agree or disagree with it. The big reason I think it's important for someone to share this is that we would really love to be able to, I think I speak for all of us, we would love to be able to address this directly with who wrote it and who's concerned enough to go ahead and write this to the city, to be able to give them the attention that they deserve. This is all important stuff, and I know that we would love to make that personal touch. So that would be my first recommendation if anybody's considering doing this. Second, I guess I want to make sure that people understand too that this isn't a one or the other type of thing. We aren't foregoing road repairs because we're spending money on beautification efforts or street signs or parks. It's not like we're making those choices and pulling the money out of the road fund. Just trying to make that clear to everybody. The third thing I guess I wanted to discuss, and this one's kind of tough to discuss, is that is just how the road fund works. These sometimes, well, the roads being repaired, and I know we all know this, I'm just saying it out loud. The roads getting repaired isn't, the order of things is largely done through triage. You know, we're picking the worst roads and addressing them first. While the city, and as we even looked through the budget earlier, the city has the funds to go ahead and be able to repair probably all the roads, you know, within a couple of years. The problem is that puts us in a lurch down the road. The roads all have a lifespan of, what would you say, Peter, 20 years or less? Yeah, well, New Street would be 25 to 30 years, okay. 25 to 30 years on a new street. While the city is in good financial shape right now, and could afford to do more road repairs per year, we have to do it in bite-sized pieces because we may not, our successors may not have the luxury of having those type of funds available in the future, and they may not be able to handle that workload if we do so much all at once. So while we can fix them all very quickly, they also all expire very quickly. So that's my soapbox for tonight. Being that some of this was, some of the beautification efforts was mentioned also, I guess I would like to discuss very quickly that the beautification task force has done a phenomenal job, just like, you know, Peter's vision with the Christmas decorations. With a relatively small budget, we've been budgeting $50,000 a year to the beautification efforts. And we've been, the results that we're seeing are the horse fencing and the Christmas lights and the murals and, you know, the park benches and the park, you know, some of the park improvements and things. We're seeing so much result from that small amount that we're putting into the beautification efforts. And the beautification task force has put together a pretty lengthy list of all the things that we want to try to achieve. And I think if we look at it in $50,000 chunks, it's going to take us like 25 years to get through the list. So we're trying to make efforts to increase the amount that's put into the beautification efforts, but not necessarily increase the amount that we're plugging in of taxpayer dollars. So we've discussed this before, but we've put together a banner program where businesses can sponsor $500 sponsorships that are tax deductible, and that goes into the task force, the beautification task force. The city's way of saying thank you is they're going to be recognized on the banners when we take down the holiday banners. So from like from early January to just before Memorial Day, those businesses will have a chance to be spotlighted along our major thoroughfares, Commonwealth and possibly Dixie if we have enough participation, where they're going to be seen by up to 20,000 cars a day, and let the world know that they are community partners in the beautification efforts in Erlanger. There is a form on the website. There's also forms available here that businesses can use to fill out. And the deadline for that is next Tuesday. So that's the 12th. I would encourage businesses, if you want to get involved, please let us know by December 12th. That's all I have. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other new business? Okay. Just to speak to your business banners really quick, we already have 5 banners committed. So, off to a nice start.
All right, now we're into legislation. First, we have an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, amending Erlanger Ordinance Number 2557, and the budget adopted thereby for the City of Erlanger for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2023, and ending on June 30th, 2024. As was discussed, you can see attached the changes that are being made, and it's primarily to the capital asset fund for the purchase of the cruiser. This is just a first reading. Next, we have, we've tabled 2, so next we have a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement pursuant to KRS 65 2.10 for the consolidation of collection of City of Erlanger, Kenton County schools, Boone County, and Kenton County occupational license fees for real property and improvements thereon located in both counties. This was discussed at the last meeting. This is the piece of property, 25 Atlantic, which is split in Boone and Kenton, and has a portion, obviously, in Erlanger. And attached is how that is going to be allocated and split between Boone, Kenton, and then Erlanger. in essence, Erlanger will get a 50% of the payroll tax on that location. Need a motion and vote?
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Ms. Kyle, Ms. Reckers, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Next, we have a municipal order of the City Council of the City of Erlanger and Kenton County, Kentucky, approving the reappointment of Mayor Jessica Fetty as the representative of the City of the Northern Kentucky Planning and Development Services, PDS, and the reappointment of Councilmember Tyson Hermes, the alternate, effective January 1st, 2024. This both would be for a one-year term.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Ms. Reckers, Ms. Kyle, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next we have a municipal reappointment of Mayor Jessica Fetty as the representative of the city to the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, OKI Regional Council of Governments, effective January 1, 2024. This also is a one-year term.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Ms. Reckers, Ms. Kyle, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Motion carried.
Next, we have a municipal order of the City of Erlanger and Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determinations required by KRS 82083 for the sale or other disposition of property owned by the city. You can see attached the proposed surplus property are two 2015 Dodge Chargers that are being disposed due to age, mileage, and condition, and they both will be sold by electronic auction.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Mr. Cahill, Ms. Reckers, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next, finally, we have the resolution that was discussed related to the Circle Port project. It's a declaration of official intent with respect to reimbursement of temporary advances made for capital expenditures to be made from subsequent borrowings. As was indicated, this is the first step. It's required by the IRS. It's a declaration of an official intent that at some point there will be bonds with the maximum amount of $3 million. Those would all be non-recourse to the city, meaning the city has no responsibility, and that this resolution is preliminary in nature. To comply with the reimbursement regulations, the city has not yet committed to issue those obligations and will do so at a future meeting by ordinance.
All right. Do I entertain a motion that we, hold on, we're not adjourning yet.
No,
That almost
you're
came out.
approving that resolution.
Do I entertain a motion that we adopt this resolution as read? Mr. Hermes, Mr. Eckers, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Now we're adjourning. Do I entertain, announcements. Do we have any announcements tonight? Anybody? All right. Do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Ms. Kyle, Ms. Wilson, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Have a good evening.